All right, it is 2:01. I'm calling to order the Ogden Valley City Council meeting for April 6th. It's a work session. It is a regularly scheduled 2 p.m. meeting. We are here in the Huntsville Town Hall and City Council chambers as our anchor location, as well as being available online via Zoom for online participation. I'm going to do a real quick roll call before we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. In house today, we have Councilman Hickman, Councilman Booth, Council Member Shaw, Council Member Julie Baker. I know Council Member Hoagland is on her way and she'll be written in when she gets here. Otherwise, we do have a quorum. I am Mayor Wampler and we have our reporter and our IT director here as well. All right, everyone that can, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we will have a moment of silence. Thank you. Just a heads up and a reminder to some of my council members, I will be leaving this meeting early to get down to the Wake County Housing Committee meeting that I have once a month. And our Mayor, Councilmember Hickman will take over running the meeting after I leave. All right, first up on the agenda is our update. Councilmember Booth.
Yes, and I will quickly turn the time over to Brian if he's available to do that. Glad to have him here.
Sure, absolutely.
That'd be great. And then we'll fill in the gaps where needed, Brian. That's all right.
Yep. Like me, but freaking the camera see me. Is this okay? There we go. It likes you now. All right. I apologize. The planning report didn't come out until about noon today. I'm going to make a better effort to get that out to you on Fridays at the end of the week this week. So the big news from the past week was the public hearing held by the Planning Commission to consider the general plan for the city, the new zoning map, and several land use ordinances, including the Agriculture Valley AB3 zone, the Forest Valley FV3 zone, and the Residential Estates RE15 and 20 zone, and then general definitions for the land use code. We received the public turnout to the meeting is, I'm sure several of you noticed that were there. It was very well attended. In fact, it was we had to turn people away at the door as the meeting was starting. I believe we had every seat in the room taken. I didn't count how many that was, but we had over 100 people participating online as well. And the legal counsel provided a brief review of the intent and format for the meeting, and the public responded very well with organized and clear and very respectful thoughts concerning their comments. There was not a lot of repetition or a number of people standing in line waiting to express the same comment multiple times. It was very respectful. I thought things went really well. The majority of the comments received were regarding short-term rentals and some proposed changes to the setback and animal rights requirements within the agricultural zone. I believe we also had written comments submitted throughout the week. And then I also received a couple more over the weekend. I've provided there was a packet Friday night that went out that contained most of the written comments, and I believe I sent out 3 more about 12:30 this afternoon. So you should have, at least in your email, you should have them somewhere. But again, most of the written comments were regarding the restrictions on short-term rentals, particularly in the residential estates zones and the Forest Valley 3 zones. The public expressed concern that there was not a lot of clarity between restricting existing uses, permitting currently licensed short-term rentals, and then how the city would manage vested rights to provide short-term rentals on properties within subdivisions that have master development agreements or planned residential unit development agreements that specifically provide that right to the properties. So during deliberations, after the public hearings were completed, the Planning Commission added a little bit of language to the RE 15 and 20 zone, attempting to clarify that existing short-term rentals were not impacted by this proposed change, and that properties within master plan development agreements or planned residential unit development agreements where that right was explicitly vested, they would not be affected by that change. The commission also responded to concerns over setback requirements and animal rights in the agricultural zone by loosening those setback requirements, removing a requirement that corrals and other agricultural accessory structures be no less than 25 feet from a property line. They've removed that setback requirement entirely. And then they increased the animal right for 1 animal unit per 2 acres. And then in the draft ordinance language, they've included a chart that kind of breaks down what animal rights equal in terms of different types of animals. Particularly an animal unit is considered 1 cow and a calf, or 1 horse and a foal. And but when you get into smaller animals like sheep, goats, llamas, chickens, ducks, things like that, it's broken into fractional increments. They're described in that chart.
And I'll just add to that, you can continue on with, but just on the public meeting, the hearing last week, from a council point of view, just being an audience member, I guess at the time, but also just being there as far as a council member too, I was encouraged by the turnout. I thought it was a really good turnout both online and here. I had some really good feedback and correspondence after the meeting with people calling, asking specific questions about certain things and being able to give them feedback. The part of it is, even as you're telling us here, Brian, as far as people worrying about, their livestock and stuff like that. But if we think about it, that's kind of the essence of the valley that I think when we were voted to incorporate, we have to remember that a very strong 70% of the valley wanted to stay, for lack of a better term, valley-like, and keep that going. And I think we heard that very well the other night. I think there were people who stood up and expressed that in a really strong way. And I think it's important for us to remember that. And for me, I walked away being just a member of the public, very encouraged that we had that. I think that once we were elected in and stuff like that, that the enthusiasm for it seemed to die down a little bit, but it's still there. And I found that from afterwards too, having people contact me via email and phone calls wanting to discuss it and be just encouraged that how good of a job the planning commission's doing too with the stress of time and things like that. I think they're doing a great job. We all are, trying to stay up with it and keep on top of it. But the bottom line for me was encouraging to see.
Cool. Did you say 1 animal unit per 2 acres?
No, 2 units per 1 acre.
I thought I heard it.
That's what you meant.
Is that what I said?
Yeah, I think it's the other way.
If that's what I said, I meant the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 units per 1 year.
And moving forward, so this section is usually about how we're moving through the moratorium and everything.
Yep.
There's a section later on about the planning commission's recommendations, so anything else to report about the moratorium?
No.
Another hearing coming up?
We do have another hearing scheduled for the 14th. We have 6 agenda items, including a few more land use zones and then a number of design standard chapters that we'll be working through. And then for the next planning commission meeting, which is scheduled for tomorrow night, we have a long list of design standards to work through. And then, we're hoping for an additional meeting. If we can't fit an additional meeting in on the week of the 13th, the public hearing on the 14th should, the public hearing portion of the agenda for the meeting on the 14th should be short enough that where the planning commission is planning and attending to additional standards and ordinance language that they can't address this week.
You put that in the agenda?
Yes. And that hopefully if we can get that done the evening of the 14th, that will give us a substantial amount of information to put to public hearing on the 28th, leaving us with only a few low priority items to work on as we get into May.
I have a question about the report that you sent out today.
Yeah.
Two actually, one is with the schedule, I'm just wondering if there's any reason as to, everywhere else that there's a dark green adopt, I guess, for the city council, there is city council to consider it if needed beforehand, but not this week, and I'm just wondering if there was a particular reason or if that was just a.
No, that was that would be an error.
Okay, and then.
Yeah, if you do need to.
Shaded gray afterwards, but it's not in this color, so I'm aware of that.
Yeah, that was a
And
artifact of me leaving it.
sent out another version of that right after you sent that. Right?
I did, but it still doesn't include the consideration period for
Oh, okay.
the city council if you need it.
And then I have a concern about some of the stuff that was put forward for review for the next public hearing. And I bring it up because I just want to make sure that when you're working on various things that you're considering our form of government and our adopted municipal code. So one of the things that you're putting forward for consideration is the administration section.
Yes.
Yes. And when I was looking over that, you have a whole section on the planning commission and all of that, and that was adopted. The city council decided that that would be moved from the land use code into the municipal code
Okay.
back in December and January, and that is where that section sits. In addition, what you had put forward is not in line with our form of government.
Okay.
And while that should be okay, because it should just revert to what we have in our municipal code, my concern is that when you're doing various things, please consider our form of government. Because you're taking from a class 2 county and putting it in a class 5 city with a weak mayor system, and they're very different rules.
All right.
Those are my comments. All right, anything else for Brian about the planning update?
Given we're gonna spend significant amount of time later talking about this stuff, I'll keep my questions till then on how we approach stuff.
All right, thank you very much. We're gonna move to agenda item number 3, which is the consent agenda, looking over the minutes for the work session on 3/23, as well as the special meeting on 3/23. Did anybody have anything they wanted to discuss or advise a recorder of to change so that it's ready for adoption tomorrow?
I sent mine.
Sure. Anybody else? No, okay, all right, so that should be ready for an up and down vote tomorrow based off of whatever changes Peggy had submitted. Number 4 on the agenda is the update on impact fees.
Everybody should know that we noticed that we intend to adopt impact fees and a public hearing on the 13th of April, and I'll let Kay answer any specific questions about that. The impact funding plans were developed by GUV based on the data of the Weber County analogs, and the IFAs were developed by Zions. So we're in the process, well, we've noticed a public hearing. It's the 13th. Peggy asked Kay whether or not we need to do postcards for, is my understanding, no, based on our conversations with the attorneys.
And review council, what is different from zoning issues?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it does.
So did I hear somewhere is truth in taxation, and with the price changing with impact fees, I was just curious if there would be a postcard requirement.
I'm not aware of the connection between truth and taxation and the impact fees. The impact fees are not taxed.
Truth in
Taxation from taxes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because those were I have heard, or I have thought I read the truth in taxation issue. So,
Impacts?
yeah, then that would trigger a whole different thing, so.
They are two very complicated and equally confounding.
Agreed.
Yeah, but there's a
Agreed.
So in the, we will see each other again next week on this issue at a public hearing.
But for the record, for the public, it's during the day, during our regular scheduled work session, that will in fact be a public hearing and a special meeting following. So the public hearing is at 2 p.m. in the afternoon and the special meeting is at 3. And this is for the timely hearing and then whether adopt, table or deny, because that kicks in the 90-day, I don't know what to call it, pause.
Adoption time, hearing time.
And then with that calendar date, it should actually be pretty much in line with the rollback of the moratorium or the lifting of the moratorium. All right, agenda item 5, update on building permit and inspection contract.
Everybody received an email from me on Friday or Saturday morning, I don't remember when I said it. The source selection team committee down selected a company by the name of Beacon Code Consultants as the winner of our source selection. We had 3 respondents. I don't see the reason to name the other 2 publicly unless you want me to. But in the document I sent you was the scoring. Kay and I were on the team. Fred Buckley was on the team. Glenn Van was on the team, and I'm missing the 5th. Who was the
Sherry?
Sure, thank you, where I count. To me, it was unequivocal, which best value was Beacon Code. The next steps are, well, I'll answer any questions anybody have. What we're gonna get out of it is our building permit and inspection capability. So the building officer, the inspectors, we're gonna get the online, a platform that we will down select. iWorks, GovWorks, we'll select from them. We've asked them to show us options that would enable business licensing if we want to. They are gonna do all creation of all of our forms that the public will use when they interface with us for building permits. They are gonna develop our draft with us, our draft fee schedule. So we'll be hand in hand with them to create a fee schedule that we'll eventually look at and hopefully adopt. And we've got the option, and I said yes to hiring our code enforcer through the same company. Peggy and Kay interviewed that person last week. And we have the option of also adding in the zoning administrator. As you saw in my email, maybe this person, I believe, is what we've been colloquially calling the permit or the
Calendar planner.
the desk person. So I think what's his name? Tyler, the CEO, it's like, you want to use us for this because you don't have this right now. So we don't have to use them. It'll be an option in the contract. Kay and Tyler are working the details of the contract. It is one that we need to vote on in some fashion to say, yay, verily, go forth and do it. If we can do that tomorrow, so we can get it done, I would like to do that. If we can't, it'll have to be on the next, probably the 13th.
It's on tomorrow's agenda.
Under our procurement code, the state code, as well as the policies and procedures we adopted a few weeks ago, what you will be voting on tomorrow is whether we approve and accept the recommendations of the RFP committee. who has done all these interviews and analysis of the bids that were submitted. Why do we just have to do that instead of go right to contract? This falls under the procurement code and of the state and our procurement code as well. So I use the RFP process and have the rather elaborate steps of soliciting and considering the submissions.
So if we, go ahead.
And just add, hold in the code enforcement person because of the way we did it.
Yeah, it will be a capability
In
in this contract we have. Team.
A couple of things. You said a desk person. Does that mean they would be at a desk?
Well, they could be, but generally speaking, a customer will go to our platform and apply for a building permit, pole barn, a house, a chicken coop. And it will be online, just like you do with Frontier, only not Frontier, but whatever platform we use. The person will be communicating with them via email, presumably. The person will be available to consult on phone for sure, and we ask the question, is that, could he make that person available to go to our city offices on designated days and be there as a counter planner? He said, sure, if you want to pay for it, they can be sitting there. So it's a capability, we'll just have to see what the demand of the people is. But it is, we can have them sit at a desk periodically, but what they will do is they will accept, the system will accept the permit, and that zoning administrator will be part of the analysis of it and available to advise the public on, this is what your zone is, this is what the building codes are, this is all those questions that you would currently walk into the desk at the planning office in Weaver County.
This is what our James B person is doing right now, before we jump off of this one. This is what this is what Brian's doing for us right now, and what we asked him to do.
Brian, do you care to comment on that? Is Brian still here?
Yeah.
Sorry.
But this was part of that task order with Brian.
I would say, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I would say it's almost the administrative role, not the full planning role. Okay? It is an intake officer more to do a preliminary review.
The only thing I'm suggesting is that we work with JB and figure this out.
Like I said, this is an optional capability that we're putting in the contract yet to use if we want. Next step will be figuring out what exactly do we want? What are they providing? What do we need? Does this plug the hole if there's a hole?
Right, just wanted to throw it in. Thank you, Peter, for letting me take it.
The other question is, how does, if business licenses comes into this, how does that work with Weaver County and the interlocal if we have them?
Well, at some point, led by you, we will go from Weaver County managing our business licenses to us. What I've asked them to do is show us platforms, iWorks, Frontier Analogs, that could be used for the business license process, in addition to the main purpose, which is the building permitting purpose.
Okay.
So if we down select to it, then led by you, we need to create our business license process.
You're talking about maybe a frontier type thing, is that what you're talking about, where people can go and apply for a business license?
Yes,
Okay, so there's a Priscilla degrees also on staff there, do we use them anymore, or?
Kristen
Cover that.
agrees. You mean at the county?
Yeah,
Well, you will lead us to what we want to do for our business licensing. We've got Weaver County until we turn them off. What we're going to converse with Beacon Code is, what are the best building permit managing systems? And do they, or would they allow us to also do business licensing? If so, we might want to choose the ones that said yes, so that you've got that capability to use to create our business license.
right, but what I'm saying is there's more than me on that, under, following that.
Right, so then,
There was an Iverson and now there's a Priscilla.
so then led by you, we'll have to decide how we're gonna actually do it. Do we need to hire a person to do it? Might there be a Beacon Code person to do it? Is it a third party contractor to do it? That's what we'll have to figure out.
That was a good question.
Okay.
Thank you.
So just to understand, today was the discussion aspect of it all. Tomorrow, there's time again for discussion, but basically tomorrow what's needed and what's on the agenda is a vote to formally agree or not to move forward with the recommendation from the selection. All right, anything else on that one?
Anybody have any other questions? Nothing for me.
All right, next up on the agenda, number 6, demonstration of GIS, including new proposed Ogden Valley.
Matthew Crump, are you there, sir?
Got me.
Nathan?
No, you got me done. Sorry.
No, we'll survive.
Is it possible that I can share my
Briefly
screen?
show us
Or
what
is
we
that...
have and go through and then ask people if they have questions and answer the questions.
I can do that. Can I share my
The
screen?
audience, we've established a Ogden Valley City GIS. And on it, we're going to have the proposed zoning map from the Planning Commission, while it is a proposed one. And when the city adopts its zoning map, we will put our new zoning map there. And one of the main reasons we're doing this is there's no guarantee that Weaver County was going to keep our internal stuff up to date. All right, go ahead there, Matt, or Nate, sorry.
So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that this has been, we've updated this today. So I'll show you some of the functionality that's been updated just very recently. But this is the new Ogden Valley City website, and we've added a link to that. So if residents click on this, they can get access to the GIS link. When this pops up, the information that they are currently seeing, if they click on this planning layer or the layers tool, they're brought to this this map that shows zoning layers. And so we've simplified this to essentially show this is the current zoning. This is the zoning, how it sits right now. So this is the county's data, or what was adopted before the city became a city. And then if they wanted to look at the proposed zoning, we call this Working Planning Commission proposed zoning data. They can turn that layer off and turn this one on. We kept the colors and the labels the same so that if they're kind of comparing, they'll be able to see one from the other, what has changed and what hasn't changed, what's the same. We've tried to simplify it so it's really clear of what they're looking at between those two data sets. I don't know, Don, do you want me to go into other functionality of this or just kind of stick to this zoning layer tool?
We have some questions in the audience, Nate.
No, Mike, it's just that, where did you go to find that, Nate? I wanna see it on my.
The link's at the very top.
Yeah. Wait a minute, thank you.
How deep down does it go, Nate? Can you go by parcel? Can you look all the way down? And then did you also take everything over from the county? Is there everything from the TDRs and everything else in there?
Yeah, so essentially anything that was on the county's website is here. So you can, like basically that stuff from GeoGizmo is available. So you can click on a parcel and get the ownership. And then if you click on, any additional information, this is very similar to what you'd get from GeoGizmo. It pulls up the parcel information online. So a lot of that functionality is we're basically referencing Weaver County's info. So they're updating it on their end. And so all of that data is live, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question? So you can zoom in and get parcel data and see.
It does have information. Okay, and then, because Councilmember Hickman mentioned, we aren't guaranteed any kind of time as to when that may or may not come off there. Is there a plan to just simply transfer that information over in case they do one day just remove it from their site?
Yeah, so let me give you a bit background to that. So this right now, this current zoning, we are just referencing what the county has. Our plan is to get that data so that we can host that on our site, so that whether the county takes it down or not, we don't care. Right now it's set up that, but that was just for the functionality of for this meeting. So we'll get that updated. But then ultimately, once the new zoning is adopted, we will remove it will become the current zoning, and then we'll just show that, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
A question? It's Kay Hoagland, and I'm just looking at this work, and big kudos to you all for getting that up and running and getting some fixes done so quickly. I am having trouble, however, understanding the maybe it's the labels or the guide on what these cross hatches mean. There are some crosshatch sections, and I'm not sure what those little areas mean.
Legend. Sorry, Brian. Did you have some?
Yeah, if it should display under legend, perhaps not, maybe we need to get that fixed on the website, but the hatched area is the master plan development overlay zone. So that, although it is not up to date, it outlines or it highlights many areas of the city that have planned residential unit development, PRUD agreements.
What do you mean it's not up to date?
It doesn't include the majority of the master development agreements that we've received.
Didn't you guys take this from the county's website?
We did.
And it doesn't.
The county's website currently doesn't display most of the master development agreements.
Hmm.
It has 3 or 4 within the city limits, and I've got a list of 50 that we're trying to figure out how we can map them.
Oh, significant add.
Yeah.
Significant.
So this could look a lot different.
If we choose to map the master development agreements in the same way, yeah, it will expand that considerably.
Wow. How are you getting that information?
It's mostly in text form for legal property descriptions, deed descriptions, starting at a survey point and proceeding 139.6 feet to the northeast. It's survey measurements and taking those line by line and creating the polygons necessary to throw onto the map is proving challenging.
So the source of those, like I'm familiar with Wolf Creek Resort. As I learned, it was CDA, the zoning development agreement in 2002. So that attached a bunch of property.
Correct. Yeah, each development agreement includes a description of all the properties that are included within the area that the agreement applies to. And so it
could be pages.
And that has never been mapped. That's amazing.
That's amazing.
I'm kind of surprised that Weber County didn't keep on top of it, but we're working to figure out some ways to get it displayed.
Wow, big fun. Okay.
Well, so that's it'd be very nice to have, but that's in reference to certain details. I mean, their zoning is still their zoning and it's on the map.
That's correct.
Right, this is an overlay.
Yeah.
So in other words, so an area like Wolf Creek, where you didn't have a master development overlay, is still going to have its underlying zones. There are parcels that are 83, there are parcels that are RE 15, or whatever they are.
Yeah.
But then there is an agreement based on, I don't know what's in it, I haven't read it, but my guess is it talks about short-term rentals, it talks about all those other things, those are other details in terms of what they put together here. My understanding of their intention is to show current zoning, proposed zoning, because there are some proposed zoning changes being made. So having master development overlays is something that we should always aspire to have on our city to be as transparent as possible, but it's not going to change anything unless I'm mistaken about those zoning changes.
Doesn't change the zoning.
It will. At least my view is, with respect to any of those agreements that are, whether it's the 2002 ZBA or last year's development agreement. Those freeze some right and create some vested rights, which can include the vesting of the zones for that development.
Yes, that makes sense. That's where I'm talking about sort of things like short-term rental being the best.
Sure.
Okay. For planning purposes, though, it would be nice to have that.
It would save me a little time when I get a
Yeah.
request from a home builder who wants to know if they can proceed with a building permit application, but they don't know if their development is within a master development agreement, and I'm not sure either, because sometimes the subdivision name and the master development agreement name are different or have been changed. And so it can be a little bit of a twisty maze to get through to verify that information.
We just had a visitor at the office this morning with, and has a development agreement, but it was from the 80s.
Mhm.
So,
And we'll need to take a look at that, because sometimes those development agreements have an expiration date, so.
So the big picture is we have our own GIS and we own the rights to this, we have the license. It is ours to create, decide what we want on it. We convert a little bit of taxpayer dollars into Ryan and Nate and the GIS guys down at JUB, creating whatever layers we want on it. The immediate thing that we sought to provide to the people was, here's what it looked like on the 31st of December. Here's what's proposed to look like by the planning commission. Here's what it does look like once we vote to approve a zoning map, so that people would know how they're zoned. That was the number one thing we saw immediately. We've got that, and we're gonna start adding other layers as we see that.
Does the city council need to know all those overlay zones before they can think to approve the zoning map?
No.
Is there any changing being proposed that cannot actually be changed due to vested rights?
Yes, there are several, specifically the short-term rental change, which is proposed in all zones. That is in opposition to the vested rights of several master development agreements. And so, yeah, we need to find that. One way of dealing with that would be to clarify very carefully in the zoning ordinance language, stating that short-term rentals are prohibited except where explicitly allowed under development agreement. Another option would be to simply leave short-term rentals as a permitted use in all codes, but enact a temporary land use restriction on short-term rentals until the city has had a chance to reevaluate and modify the rules that apply to short-term rentals if you choose to continue to allow new rentals, because the city will always have to deal with the existence of short-term rentals because of some of these developments and their vested rights. And so the idea of completely extinguishing them as a use within the city is unlikely. It's a management decision. If you want to stop them from proliferating, if you want to draw a line in the sand and say, no, we do not want any more short-term rentals as of, June 1st, 2026, that's an option, but we need to consider a way to deal with those that are already on the ground and those that are already vested. So mapping them doesn't necessarily change them, but the ordinance language, the planning commission has forwarded, and that we had many comments on in the transition team comments as well. That could, there might be a couple of different ways to deal with that could be more clear to the public and the property owners.
Given we're gonna talk in detail about this subject later,
Yeah.
I suggest we table that until later if we need to.
Yeah.
Anything else on the GIS? If you have comments, questions, send them to Nate and Brian. They're working together. It's hours. It cost about $4,000 to get to where we are. It really is not that expensive to create, at least where we are now. It's not gonna be created expensive going forward. It's a tool that we're gonna wanna use and everything we're gonna use. So, thank you, Nate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item 7, discussion on the revised planning commission ordinance and bylaws. So. I don't know if the planning commission wants to discuss or planning commission. If Chattapega wants to leave this off, or if you. You don't hear did you look at the actual
I like to go on result.
I think.
okay, so it's Corbin's red line document confused me, because we're not redlining anything from our muni code, we're amending the language, we're adding language. If you guys looked at the municipal code that you all adopted back in January, the planning commission section was not what we had discussed in December, and instead, very simply, the language was that we will abide by the state code. That's what you all adopted in January. Well, state code requires certain things, and so going back to the code that was discussed back in December, it states all those things. So I don't know why he would put it in a red line rather than a blue line, but basically, if you looked at the Word doc underneath the red line, he put in red line things because John had asked for it about other things, but this would be rather be blue because it's adding language. So then look at the Word doc that was underneath that, and that is the proposed code. That's back from December.
I have reviewed personally the proposed code as the Word document, not the red or blue line. And I have no questions, comments, or concerns based on what I've read, but if others do, I certainly want to hear what you guys think about it.
I had one that popped into mind as I was reading them, and that was the alternates. And I remember in December, there was no alternates because of the effort that was required on their part, and now on here it's included. So I was curious about how that came to be.
So I had argued that I thought it was too cumbersome. Our attorney at the time, which was still Corbin, was saying that he thought it would behoove us to leave the language in, we don't have to do it. So it allows you to do it if you want to do it, but you aren't required to do it. I'm more than happy to take it out because I think that I don't foresee us. Yeah, the alternates that are gonna show up to meetings but not be called on until one random day.
And they said they could discuss, and I just thought it was. I'm not happy with it, the way it was before, that we didn't do alternates, but we had an option of filling positions.
Is the language in there may?
Yes,
Nate,
Okay.
that's what Corbin had recommended us to.
Legally, I agree with them, if some future council wants to implement alternates, which some cities have, it's an option, we don't have to do it.
That's why it's.
I personally don't see any downside of the may, and it gives us the option to do.
I was just surprised we should see after our discussion.
Any other questions or comments about it?
Wasn't it the alternates that allow us to yes, planning commission on?
No,
Not directly.
Okay.
They were interviewees, but not designated alternates.
Okay. Okay.
But it does illustrate potentially utility of having alternates.
I disagree. I think the alternate is not the same as what happened back then. An alternate, the way it's described in the code, is someone that if someone couldn't show up to a meeting would step in. That means they'd have to be attending every meeting to be up to speed on everything, but then they wouldn't be called on until the one random day.
I understand that.
Okay,
But the fact that we needed to go through second, there's utility and some people on the bench.
Okay, I mean, there's a whole section here on filling vacancies.
Right, that's what I thought.
Any questions about this, because this is up for adoption tomorrow? There was no blues, that's why his red line
Yeah, it's
is very odd.
I am going to ask for a clean copy.
There is.
The Word document is a clean copy.
yeah.
Clean copy, right, I mean.
And Janet's email was a PDF and a Word, and the Word in the next one we're gonna look at, same deal. The Word is a clean copy. As far as I can tell.
So, and that had to do with a request from Councilmember Hickman, where we were looking at adopting ordinances last week. That, some of those ordinances had language that was already adopted in the code that our attorney had not taken into account when he'd written the new ordinance, and so Councilmember Hickman asked him to go back, look at what we already have, then make a red line to what we're going to be adopting to see what's different, what's adding, can you consolidate them into one? I don't know why he did what he did with this one, because we're simply taking small paragraph and adding it into like a sheet of paper. So just so that everybody's ready, so that'll be for tomorrow. Any questions or comments? Please have at it. Also, by the way, yeah, so there's a section on rules and things that the planning commission is supposed to all have agreed to and all those things. That's in the code, so.
I'm
It's also,
sorry, I didn't see that rule, so.
yeah, like rules of conduct, things like you don't refer to anyone by their first name, that you dress appropriately, that you show up on time, and all that. All right. Anything else, then we're gonna move forward, and I will be exiting the meeting to go to the Wade Cog. So Councilmember Hickman, if you're gonna stay there, I'm gonna give you this. And please keep it for tomorrow. Next up on the agenda is item 8, discussion of the resolution adopting the enforcement code. I will introduce this only because it can be confusing. And so last week in the meeting, in the special, no, was it a special council or an actual meeting? It was a special meeting. You all adopted the ordinance for the enforcement code. What got tabled was the resolution to enact that code. In that, Councilmember Hickman had again asked, hey, there's some language here that's already in the muni code about excavation permits, I think is what was that one in particular.
I asked about several things, but in the case of the enforcement, we have elsewhere in Title V fees, fines, and other things explicit that he had not referenced, and that's why I wrote it.
Right, so what you saw in this agenda and work packet was the red line version of the ordinance that you all adopted last week based on what he was altering that was included in our muni code prior, and then a clean version of what he is proposing get adopted. He made adjustments to include the language that was previously there. Tomorrow, you will be asked whether or not to adopt the newly amended enforcement code based off the additions to put in the language that was already in our mini code, and then separately the resolution. The reason this is also all coming up is because there are certain fines and forfeiture items or information that was not previously put in our muni code, and we need it there in order to enact it. It is time sensitive, our court is needing it. Things like our parking fines and all those other things, we did not have those in the code. So the enforcement code that you're seeing today is the one you would be amending that you adopted last week, would be changed tomorrow. The resolution that was tabled last week is to enact the actual ordinance. Did everybody follow that before I exit?
Almost all the way in.
Any questions before I? For me? Otherwise, you can discuss it with.
This is the one.
That's the clean version, yeah. And so that includes the stuff that was previously in our muni code that he had left, Corbin had left out previously. Okay, great. Thank you very much. On to you.
What he did in this revised version is, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm not reading the actual sentence out of him, but he says, if there are elsewhere in the municipal code fines and enforcement procedures, this new one does not supersede it, they are also in effect. So that this creates the ability to go enforce. It references these other fines and penalties, but we can enforce everything, if that makes sense. The one we looked at last did not do that. Any questions?
Yes, I just had one as I read through all of this, I'm thrilled we have it, it seems very heavy administrative jargon, but the one thing I didn't see through all this, and even in the definitions, is who is the city? It does not define the city, and it references it multiple times through the document, so I would ask that we put in the city definition. Who is is that the council, is that the person who has enforcement is their portfolio, which is it? I didn't know who the city referenced, so that's all I'm.
Can you lead us to where you are? So it will sit in the municipal code. Well, it sits as chapter whatever, 2.09 of the municipal code. And so the municipal code defines the city.
Okay, show me that, tell me what that means, read it, do you have that?
Okay, what does, she is our resident attorney,
The
but
city is the entity that was incorporated on January 2nd.
in the municipal code says we are hereby Ogden Valley City.
But it strikes it out in the red line version, it strikes out city means Ogden Valley City, there's a line for it. So tell me who the
Can
city.
you look at the Word document version?
I can.
I am looking at the Word document version, section 1 amendment, chapter 2.09 of the Ogden Valley City Code is hereby amended. Yada, yada, yada. So this sits in title 2 of our municipal code, which starts as we're Ogden Valley City. And I don't have, we can pull up title 2 if you want to.
Please, because I need to know who is the city, so when this comes down to,
Yeah, pick it up, clause.
yeah,
So-
so-
Kathy, do you have access to our municipal code over there? To pull it up so we can look at
It's a
it?
city that, however,
Yeah, but who is the
you
city?
have a, you have a city organization and who.
We don't have those on the website yet?
The municipal code?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, the trouble is, it's embedded in an agenda, is the only place I can find it. It's page 92 of the agenda, on January 3rd, because I go through the doc. It is,
Isn't it in our documents?
it
There's
may be, but I
municipal
I haven't found
codes.
look at it, see if that.
On our website or in our SharePoint?
I'm not sure.
Right.
See if
So
that's it.
our municipal code is not yet on the website. Is that what I'm really?
Oh, okay.
Probably she did for it, right? To the meeting.
Unless you did for it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's go back to what is the.
Here's another one, the city may recover unpaid penalties, and I know it's a lot of references to the
Right.
city, but I'm talking about the ones that are the enforcement piece. I just wanna clarify.
Can you go to that length, what provision?
G,
2.09. Which one?
G. That's just an example, it's probably not the best
Go
one.
up to,
Oh.
which G it is, where is
The first G there, it says violation means doing an act prohibited by the city code or failing to perform, is that one?
No, the city code is clear, it's the municipal code, I'm assuming,
Imposed by the city.
but it's, let's see.
sorry, Kathy, I didn't mean to throw you under the bus over there. I just
Well-
assumed we had it on our website. I am pulling it up on SharePoint.
2.09.090, G says the city may recover unpaid penalties and costs, is that kind of your example?
There's a lot of this here's another one, C under 2.09.160. Final administrative order. On a non-land use citation or enforcement matter may be appealed to the city's appeal authority.
Right. So
Yes,
that,
legally, Dave, do you have an answer for that? Like
yeah,
that?
that's the appeal authority that would be established by the city a municipal entity. Who
Establishes it, is it the city council? All I'm asking is, in
City council.
in the definition, city is city council,
No,
that's all they're like.
they're two different. It is the city council who would appoint through an enforcement officer, but the city is the institution, establishment that has authority. And then the city council exercises that authority by electing an enforcement.
I would just like more definitions, I'm gonna leave it at that. That we could say, I don't have it highlighted on this document, but I guess what I wanted to know is, I don't want it as vague as the city, I would just like it to be defined, if that's.
Do we have Corbin on the call today?
No.
Okay, so this. Peggy, thanks for the question. So let's get this question to Corbin.
Yeah.
And have him answer, Peggy, if you wouldn't mind.
I'd be happy to ask him.
And copy
Happy to.
copy us. This is the question that came up. What is the answer to this? I just pulled up Title II. At the beginning of it, it does not say the city is this. It says the Title II establishes the municipal government. So just let's have Corbin explain what it is, and if it needs different language, let's have him propose different language to look at tomorrow before we adopt it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
That's the
you.
only concern I had.
Okay. Yep, thank you. Anybody else on this one? All right. Next up is agenda item number 9 and followed by number 9, 10. So what we've got for the rest of our working session is a discussion of how to proceed with what the planning commission forwarded to us. At least that's what I interpret what we want to do. We've got two major things in 9 and 10. I'm gonna highlight 10 and then go back to 9. 10 to me is a conversation the 5 of us ought to have on we've got whatever it is, these, Brian, how many documents are there? 5, whatever it is, a general plan, a zoning map, and what are the pros and what are the cons of doing it piece by piece or en masse? And then separately, how to address and what to do with what we got from the planning commission. Make sense?
Kind of.
Well, so we were, and I'm looking to the plan 1, plan 2, your plan 1, your plan 2, planners over there. We've got a schedule, the color chart from Brian that lays out at least a plan to get from here to the 2nd of July. Phased in it are when things might show up here, and 6 things have shown up here. We've got questions about impact fees, and you brought this up last week, I think, Chad, is it a big deal if we don't do the impact fees?
This very.
How big is the deal?
This is a huge deal.
Well, and Brian sent us, right, and Brian sent us all of his analysis, and we can argue whether or not 30,000 is a lot of money or not. We should have that conversation. We should, and Brian, I'll ask you this question. What are all of the administrative land use codes? That's what I'll call them. The lighting, the landscaping, all of those, which of those have to be in place for, let's just use AB3 as an example. If we were to pass AB3 today, first the general plan, then the zoning map, then AB3, therefore AB3 exists. Which other land use codes need to exist so that Blaine, who's sitting right over there, could actually apply for a permit?
Yeah, we need to have the design standard sections for conditional uses, lighting, single family housing, accessory dwelling units, home occupations, the supplementary and qualifying regulations. And more than one. Yeah, I mean, we've got 8 or 9. They are on the agenda with the next planning commission meeting.
For their first look at those ordinances.
Not their first look,
Yeah.
but for discussion and
Okay,
possible action.
No, go ahead. That was my point.
there you go. So, and I'm not trying to drive this conversation. You guys are just seeing where my brain's going. So regardless of whether or not we were to vote to adopt AB three, or just using it as an example, Blaine still couldn't apply for a permit because the rest of the ordinances don't exist yet. Correct?
And there's a moratorium.
Well,
Well,
if we approve AB three, it exists. But there's no process in place for which he could apply for a permit, because the rest of the administrative code doesn't exist yet,
are a couple weeks away from.
or a couple of weeks away.
Are they not two separate questions? Can't we say we said the moratorium is good for 6 months? The rolling back as we do zones, is that a given? Is that a requirement?
No, that's what to discuss in,
The moratorium piece?
right,
Okay, so we could go ahead with AB three, FE three, RE, and then decide when to roll them back.
once we pass them, they are the law of the land.
If there's nothing you can do with them as being the law of the land,
What good is
We're
passing
still-
them, Mark?
Because
What bad is pass through, what, like, that's the
Well,
answer.
those are the questions to ask, and I don't know the answers.
Okay, that's good, 'cause I don't think you either.
May I, you go, Tina.
No, just if they were passed and people knew they were passed, then wouldn't that create frustration because they're passed, but they can't do anything with them?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, that's a good question to ask, but it's passed in a way it's showing that we're making progress. As a planning commission and also as a city council, getting to the point that they're actually not passed to a point where they can do anything, so there's
Right.
no like. Yeah,
So it has to be clear that is the case then, and so what is the point? Wouldn't you want it passed so that it's actually usable? So that people could actually.
Well, I think that's what's being asked right here, right?
Yeah, but
Are you proposing that we delay this so that it can all go at once? So that we can make, like what T is alluding to, that we can make everyone happy, because, okay, by April, whatever, everything's good to go, and Blaine, since he's the subject of it, can get a permit for his home. Is that kind of what you're proposing?
well, I'm not proposing anything, I'm asking questions that are rattling around in my brain, because yes, we need to go back to 9 and talk about the 6 documents, but the question 10 was the pros and cons of delaying or how to approach the moratorium. Do we hold it all off to the 2nd of July? Do we incrementally adopt as they come from the planning commission? And in my mind, the question I asked Brian is a really important one. Timing wise, if, and I'm just using AB three as the example, if we passed AB three, but one can't do anything with it, then there's no immediate imperative to pass AB three. We can spend some deliberative time and make sure we've got it right, and the other 6 is where my brain is going. Okay,
Okay, in my key brain, it's sounding like we have 2 issues that we're talking about at the same time. One is, does solely adopting a zone and enable a resident to build, is that enough to build? And I think what I've heard y'all say is there are building standards that really need to be applied as well. So presumably when those are adopted, and that's next on your batch of things to look at, then the question is right about whether we can roll back in waves or layers moratorium. So we can't do that because again, no effect, we could, but if it just like the zone, would that be enactment ability or the building ability? It doesn't, as Tia said, that's the big frustration.
And let's throw that back to Brian, the worst case scenario, Brian, what would be the latest time frame as far as calendar wise, and being able to get that in place, since we're talking about AB three, where we can get our residents issued a permit and actually build. Or do additions or do, you know.
You could pass the AB three and remove the moratorium on development within that zone at your next meeting. It would create complications because we don't have the standards that it references to, specifically short-term rentals and agritourism and a couple of other things. If it were on a hillside.
Like as simple as a pole barn. swimming pool.
Yeah, I mean, accessory buildings would be very easy. Most of those are not,
But are they on the next agenda for that, or would that pass with the AB3?
that would pass with the AB3. That's part of the AB3 code, that type of accessory development, unless it were an external accessory dwelling unit, because the ADU code hasn't been, so.
Well, to continue my question that I was in the middle of. Building standards, aren't those the sometimes national code standards that are adopted through planning ordinances that govern how we build?
The building standards have been already adopted by the city in a separate building code and inspection code. Those typically don't fall within the land use ordinance. And the planning commission doesn't review or comment on those because they're of such a technical nature that where we're referring to the International Building Code or the International Residential Code. If that's going to be your baseline, then, you can add additional standards within the zoning code to deal with that. But if all you're looking for is compliance with the international code, you have already adopted that.
So then what stops someone in AB3 from saying, by the moratorium, lifting it, I can go ahead and build, because they just adopted AB3.
Adopting AB3 does not withdraw the moratorium. The temporary.
To modify, but
Right.
what would stop us from modifying the moratorium and saying, now it's off with respect to AB3?
The city has not formally adopted the outdoor lighting standards, for example, and so the sections of the AD code that refer to outdoor lighting, there would be no rules to enforce. Essentially, you would be saying, see chapter 108. Forget what the number is.
Whatever it is.
Whatever the number
But
is.
it doesn't exist.
But
We
that
don't know.
doesn't exist. So you're essentially saying there are no outdoor lighting standards. You can put up whatever you want until we adopt
Which would then
it.
apply to
So-
a simple thing like a pole
Yeah.
It would not apply to a pole barn.
barn. The lighting version of it.
Typically.
Oh, I got pole barns all around me. We have outdoor lighting on them.
Yeah.
Right?
So.
Now, if they came with outdoor lighting, or if they came without outdoor lighting,
But what we
if
don't
the
want
barn
to
had no lighting, then it's not an issue.
They're doing.
Is there a risk of other things like lighting that we really need to get through
Yes.
first? The planning commission.
Yes, I've got a list, and the planning commission has several of them on their next agenda.
If you look at the chart that Janet was talking about with the colors, it'll have a lot of them listed below.
Yeah, they're kind of they're listed by priority.
Kathy, do you have the chart, the color chart that Brian's sent on his planning update?
Yeah.
Can you pull it up on the screen? But
It's just sent to me.
An updated.
so I think it would be useful for us, Brian, to know which are essential for a person, once we're just using AB3.
Yep.
Yeah. What are the essential other administrative land use codes that must be in existence so that AB3 can be utilized? Thank you. Question. And what I'm hearing and I'm not seeing all of them are they're all being looked at by the planning commission sometime within the next couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, the next
By what I'm looking
would
at.
be
Now,
tomorrow?
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow at 3.
Drinking water source protection, not necessary accessory dwelling units, maybe, because they're referenced.
Yeah.
So I don't know that you can answer it now.
Well, the answer is, it's what is on their agenda is not. I mean, they have most of the top ones, but there are still a couple that we need to address in a future meeting. I mean, if I had to, count on one hand, I would say we need to get conditional uses. Even though there are not many conditional uses in the AV zone, there are still a couple.
There's some.
We need to finish the single family housing design standards. Now they have looked at those. It's just a matter of getting those passed. There is non-complying or non-conforming structures. That's more procedural, and so it should be really an easy one, but we do need to have that in place just in case somebody comes in and says, I have a non-conforming lot.
Right.
What do I do with it? And we'll have the procedures in place. I mean, short-term rentals, we could just maintain the short-term rental.
We can spend 30
So
minutes
that's-
on that subject if we want.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the top three really are just conditional use permits, how to handle those, what the single family housing design standards are, and how to handle non-complying, non-conforming uses and structures.
And I would ask you, the homework assignment is made clear to us and planning commission. These are the necessary, I don't know what you call them, I call them the administrative land use codes. These have to be in place in order for FE3, AB3, HE10, whatever to actually be used.
Yep.
Okay.
And so again, back to your proposal on that, are you proposing that we delay tomorrow's approval of these to where, till we can bundle them all together?
Well, the
Or is there
reason,
no reason to?
I don't think there's.
I think the reason I started with item 10 instead of item 9 is to put some perspective on it. If Blaine can't functionally do anything with AB3, even if we pass it tomorrow, then it buys us some time to deliberate on what we actually want to do with what the planning commission sent us, which is what we're supposed to talk about in.
Yeah.
Yes,
I don't think it's horrible.
I don't think
Especially if there's nothing that can be done with it.
that's what worries me.
We're passing it tomorrow.
Right.
I agree with that.
Deal.
Ask you a question. Peggy just forwarded this to me. Brian, you left me off of the email.
I'm sorry, I noticed that this morning.
Okay.
You
Yeah,
better
I
bring up
apologize.
the numbers.
Yeah, I owe you a soda or something. I did send an update at 12:30 this afternoon that I know I copied you on, so. But
Okay.
Okay. I imagine I have two questions, and we've, I think, covered effectively that first one. The second is, we were flirting with the discussion of impact fees, and do we lose them if we go ahead and approve, all these codes and take out a few layers of the moratorium. I don't know the answer to this question, so I'm asking you, Brian, and others. Is there a place in either planning code or in our code that says when impact fees are payable?
yes,
Okay.
and I've got to remember off the top of my head. There are other people in the room that might know.
Well,
But yes, it's defined in state statute when they're payable. You can't defer payment. So they're due at the time they're due. They're not due
Okay,
later.
sounds like some research to be done.
Since we're on that subject, did everybody get a chance to see Brian's sort of high level analysis of what the impact fees would be on the document? He said, everybody shaking their head, yes.
I'm not.
Yeah, so.
That one's actually from Sherry. I don't want to take all the credit on it, but
Yeah, I asked Sherry and Brian to chomp on this, just to give us a ballpark figure. We're not holding you to the numbers, but, Brian, what's the probable case? Would you say 20 buildings was?
we estimated, I mean, with the number that we have in line, that I've spoken to just over the last couple of months, I would say we've got 20. That does not include the building permits that have been submitted by vested projects, through master development agreements, for example, the Kobe branch and projects up at the bridges. I know that those are kind of pending some decisions on impact fees, but that would probably be another 16 to 20 applications on top of that. So I'm if we opened the doors May 1st or something like that, we've got probably 40 applications that would.
So ballpark, somewhere 20 was what, 30,000 if I remember correctly?
Yeah.
So we would leave on the table, so to speak, somewhere between
50 to 60.
Yeah, which is not insignificant, but it's not the end of the world either.
But where we need every penny.
Well, recall how we can use impact fees. They don't go to our general fund. They don't pay for Brian to do his job. They are used to mitigate the impacts of the developments on our road trails and storm drains, which are not zero.
Which is important.
So it's one of the things to consider, on the timing of this.
But if we follow your schedule here, Brian, and just, let's say we stay close, still by May 15th, we could have many of those design standards done,
Yes, if not most of them.
if not
Yeah.
most of them.
I think we could have all of them done by the end of April once,
Yeah.
if we stick to our
So-
schedule and.
So what I'm saying is I think we could kind of split this in half, try to move as quickly as we can, getting the whole package without waiting till the end. So we have the zones ready, we have then the design standards and all of the standards ready. Then we can release before the end of the moratorium and still keep rolling. Again, the impact fees, we're gonna have to, take our knots where we have. I mean, we're gonna have to, but I think we could still move along as quickly as the planning commission has been able to please. And again, with the first task that we had, get it good. Don't let it get the way great, get it done so people can start and then we'll refine. So that was kind of the mission we were set off on, and that's what they've been doing.
So is the date then what you're proposing, the end of April, like he's saying?
Well, according to this schedule, I would say more like May 15th.
Middle of May,
Yeah. Because
that you could roll back, just,
Yes.
AB3 could be rolled back and be ready to go,
yes,
a full package.
is that right, Brian? Am I misspeaking there?
No.
So I see a couple of fill
We may
in.
have a few things, like,
Yeah.
for example, the master plan development overlay zone is something that we can put off, subdivisions is something that we can put off. A little longer, those are not the top priorities.
And some of those hot button issues, STRs, agritourism, we can be more thoughtful about. Can we keep them in the moratorium until we can look at those May, June? And get these things done first.
And another idea that I know for STRs. I know about the agritourism. What's the harm in rolling the code forward? Because a number of people in the valley in 21 and 22 were deeply involved in revising the regulations. And even though it's kind of slow for the commissioners to finally get to a vote on that, those were pretty good. They're good enough. The problem with STRs has been enforcement, and that should be the focus.
Right.
So I'm just, right, it doesn't need to be a big thing right now. It's controversial, but we'll need more time.
Right, and should be reviewed again, because 22, 26, we could review it again along with other things, but I'm saying this, the residential zones, the design standards. I think the planning commission is working very hard to get all these things done. And part of our problem is getting enough, support help for them to continue with all the meetings they want to have, to continue the work they want to do. So I think we are still on schedule. Okay.
So I deliberately started with 10 instead of 9, so that we could consider the totality of what we're looking at, because I intuited if we just looked at the 6 that were forwarded to us from the planning commission, even if we passed, let's set the general plan and the zoning group aside, even if we plan to pass those specific zoning ordinances, Lane could still not build.
Right.
So since there's not a legal imperative to necessarily pass them the next day or tomorrow, we can wait a while to make sure we have everything lined up and ready to go if we choose to. Of course, we could choose to pass them tomorrow, and I think we should probably get to number 9 on the agenda, which is we have these 6 documents from the planning commission, the general plan, the draft zoning map, and the 4 land use codes. And they have said, here you go, guys. What do you think? and over to you. And we five are the five that get to decide. Ultimately, it's our votes. Janet's not one, they're not one, we gotta decide what to do. My understanding is, right off the bat, we've got to pass the general plan before anything else, because general plan informs everything else.
Right.
Then we need to adopt a zoning map, and then we need to adopt the land use codes. So, who wants to start talking about what we've got and what we're thinking about? I would suggest maybe we start with the general plan.
Absolutely.
And then maybe the zoning maps and see where we get. Knowing that, at least in the land use codes, there's no imperative to get them passed tomorrow. I'm not suggesting we don't, but there's no imperative, because no matter what, nobody could build even if we passed those specific land use codes tomorrow. Am I making sense? Cool. Let's start with the general plan.
And, yeah, and I would say, well, let's make haste slowly.
Okay.
Yeah.
General plan, who wants to start?
Well, I would recommend we give Ryan a second to inform us on what the planning commission, just a quick summary, Ryan, on what the planning commission recommends with the general plan.
Regarding the general plan, the planning commission had a few additional goals and objectives regarding water quality and water management in the development process. But beyond that, they felt the content of the plan was adequate for our purposes right now. Most of the changes were just technical, removing Weaver County and replacing Ogden County City.
Except for a couple of significant ones.
Come on, TDRs.
Well, removal of TDR,
Okay,
it's not
yeah,
insignificant.
removal of TDR.
Well,
Right or wrong, it's significant
May I
change.
say that's a misstatement though? Removal, we did not they did not remove TDRs. When I read it, I saw on, let's see. There is. Okay, let's pull it up, because there is under zoning. Principle 1.3 on land use. Principle 1.3, page 37, still includes TDRs, bonus density, conservation easements, it's all there. And I thought, this is great. What was taken out was that long paragraph that had nothing to do with the vision. But it's still in there as one of the tools that the valley can use with the right ordinance to have. Is that not?
Ryan, are we looking at different documents?
Page 37.
The planning commission asked me to strike all references to TDRs in the general plan. Now, whether that is, I think they still feel like TDRs are a potential tool to use in the land conservation toolbox. However, they did not feel like the way that it was currently construed in the plan met the goals of the community and needed additional workshopping.
So the version that they passed out and you sent to us, which showed up, at least on my computer, as a red line. Almost every reference to TDR is taken out, one survived, and it's in paragraph 1.3 something, an acronym. But TDRs did not exist in the draft general plan that was forwarded to us.
Correct.
Okay, so wait a minute. In terms of removing references to that maybe for one. What did they find at fault with the TDRs as referencing them? You know?
They felt like the county's application of the program did not include adequate rules and standards.
There you go, can say that's in the plan. The general plan was implemented,
Sure.
not in the general plan. And I was really struck by the comments of people who said TDRs are an important tool, and they were concerned about the removal of that tool because it was never properly implemented. So my view is keep it in and fix the implementation. So that on my first read, I'm not reaching the fountain.
Sure.
Okay.
Here.
Can we just send you things that, like, for example, on page 71, under present and future, it references the 5 unincorporated communities of East Huntsville, Eden, Liberty, Wolf Creek, and North Valley. Should they be referenced that way?
That looks like that was just an oversight in terms of us cleaning up. If you have text edits, yeah, just send them to me.
Some things, yeah, so just send them to you.
Or, well, do you want to work on it the same way that the planning commission did? We had one copy in that SharePoint folder that everybody has access to. You can simultaneously edit, and it allows us to track all of those changes.
This is a good question for us to decide. I would personally think we would want one Word version of it that's on a SharePoint that we have access to.
Then I'm not trying to reconcile.
So that answers that question.
So we can just go in and
What-
ourselves and put in our edits. Comments or comments.
Yeah, I would do it as a comment or maybe an email that goes to Brian, copy the rest of us to say, hey, this is something I've noticed.
Yeah,
Because I don't know that we want to be changing it, I think
Right.
personally, I think Brian should be document control.
right. I just have some things down here that I wrote down that I was finding, so.
But back to TDRs, I think we leave it, in my recommendation would be leave it, but these paragraphs and this whole thing they took out. So we can do the ordinances, we can write how we want it. But it's just like bonus density, those things should be, they're tools, they're not the vision of what we wanna have happen. So I agree, it should not be a prominent feature of the plan, it's a tool that we could use in the valley.
But there should be a definition within the general plan. of
It could be,
or
if
are you
the other
talking
ones
having it
are
be an
all
ordinance? that
Well,
then
I think it
allows-
needs ordinance.
I know, but to have that be able to substantiate what the general plan vision is.
Right.
I think that's what was happening prior to this, is that it was just a recommendation, whereas there was no ordinance in place to
Correct,
govern it, I guess, with it, and we need to make sure those two things are matched up.
correct.
You see where I'm going here?
Application of it, yes.
Cause where it's at now, unless I'm not seeing where you're saying, Peggy, it is pretty vague with what they've taken out and having any definition for there even being a TDR or anything that is like it. I mean, because if you look at 1.3.3, it says establish a coordinator's position to promote and educate about conservation easements and other programs such as TDR and PDR programs to reduce development intensity. But then from there, it says employ mechanisms to reallocate existing authorized development units from less suitable to more suitable, but it scratches out such as TDRs right there. So we don't really have anything that's defining what it is.
Right, and I don't know if the vision is the place to do it or the ordinance,
Right.
but
Yeah,
whatever we decide there, it's a tool that this valley should use, and I agree with that. So that's one thing I think we could.
so I'm question right to Brian real quick on that. Brian, how would you recommend this, this being the first time we've done this, like, how do you take this information to then try to apply it onto an ordinance that comes back and supports this?
That's a long process. I mean, we've got a lot of work to figure out what exactly what it is that they like and don't like about TDRs. And look for appropriate processes to determine sending areas, receiving areas, the value of the development credits. That all needs to be understood before we can create the ordinance itself to back it up. But referencing it as a tool in the general plan, and even including some of the language that talks about areas where you want to prioritize the application of TDRs, that's not inappropriate.
I don't think they were that far off though from the original general plan back in 2016. I think it was pretty defined. I mean, it was very well defined. The problem is that there were some things done right at the end there that allowed for some freedoms to be made on how to allocate those, and that there was nothing that was holding the giving of those there was just three to give, and I think if we tighten that definition up, we're not that far away from having a definition of what it's not, there's no rocket science behind it, it's pretty simple as far as I think, based off of me reading the past general plans on that, they were very close.
But we're writing a new one soon, so
No,
I'm
that-
thinking,
Let me jump in on,
Benton, we're
Yeah.
writing a new one soon. And I'm thinking, I would say, we reference it in the general plan, and then as we do a bigger effort, we really spend time talking about that. I thought we were charged with just change the plan to focus on our city and go. So that's what they did. They really looked at just taking out references to the canyon and the upper valley and those things. They did add the water piece and cut out some of the TDRs. But are we not doing a big?
so let me jump in on a couple of things. The $200,000 is not $250,000, so we lost 20% of our grant ask. And so we're gonna have to neck down what we can do. What we will do, we will ultimately decide. We're not gonna be able to afford a wholesale rewrite, brand new general plan out of this. Because we also have to do transportation management plans and a variety of other things. What we should be able to do is dive into the hard questions. How to affect TDRs if they stay in the general plan in a meaningful way that creates the vision that we want. Maybe dive into SDRs and maybe dive into slope angles and things like that. That's what we'll be able to do. My view of the draft general plan that we received, kudos to the 7 planning commissioners. We selected them, we said, go forth and do, and they truly are doing some really hard work. This is a case, I think, where they went further than I wish they would have gone, because this is not just a minor administrative change. This taking out TDRs fundamentally affects the premise of the general plan. And I've got to echo the Wayne's Guards, and if you guys saw their written comment and if you heard it, without it, those property owners have no viable mechanism to sell their properties except highest bidder, let's go. I'm cashing out, my kids are getting a trust fund and I'm leaving. So
And it takes out it takes out a huge vision of the general plan.
the vision and the tool. So I am not comfortable taking what we receive to vote to tomorrow. Cause I think we've got to put back in there the tools. You call it a TDR, call it a whatever, I'm happy calling it a TDR. Keep the tool in there. It's the plan, it's the vision. What matters is the ordinances when we get to writing the ordinances. There's some other things that I can nitnoid in the plan and that's the big one. The taking out of that central piece that gave property owners and city council a tool to create value out of land, but also keep open space. We've got to keep it in there, I think.
Yeah.
I'm done. Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty simple. It is one of the tools. Put it in there and we will look at how to implement it later. For the grant target, that is one of the things they advise on. But also, I just want to say, even like the markup for the plan, it's really a revision of the plan. It's a revision of the plan from 2016, revised in 19, it's the latest revision. So along with that, I'm very conservative about any changes of substance in the plan.
So Tia, and then I've got a question. Okay, Tia, then Chad. Tia?
I had another question off of TDRs and onto, utility and public services. On page 86, 2.4, it just says consider conditioning approvals for developments that are beyond existing sewer facilities, and then the rest of it. And my question was, I don't see anything about septic tanks in there. They're not referencing septic tanks.
It wasn't in.
Septic tanks are managed by the health department, and so the city really doesn't have much jurisdiction over approving or disapproving where septic tanks are located or where permits are issued.
Okay, so that's, we don't have anything to do with septic tanks.
No, not really. It would be wise on the city's behalf, for the development group to communicate closely with the health department to make sure that, the standard, so that everybody knows what the standards are, and that, if there are violations or enforcement issues, the proper chain of communication is being followed.
But we've had pretty substantial discussions on this, that doesn't necessarily take away the fact that we can have ordinances in place to continue to be able to utilize septics or sewer systems, correct?
Correct.
That doesn't take us completely out of that, we can. True.
Right, but we have to work hand in hand with that.
You can.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
For example-
I just wanted to make sure you weren't thinking that we were.
Yeah.
Well, that's right,
Distracted.
that was my question, because I
Yeah.
don't see a reference, but.
Yeah, that's a very good question, yeah.
For example, you can require that lots within a certain distance from a sewer,
Which we've.
sanitary sewer
a lot of-
system must connect, provided the sewer company is willing to provide service.
Right, we use the word may, I think.
Yes,
And again, it's whether the health department is working with us, so we have to work hand in hand with the health department.
Right.
And the planning commission did go and meet with started meetings and talking about. So it's.
good. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the original discussion we had on TDRs, just in reading the red line version that's on this, obviously it's crossed out. To me, that's a pretty good definition still of what TDRs are, so I'm not sure taking that completely out. I want to hear your side of it, Peggy, because you and I have discussed this quite a bit on this, and I'm still under the understanding of TDRs from talking to, past individuals who were a big part of developing the general plan originally, how much importance there is on the TDRs being a vital part of the general plan and the overall vision of what we want to do with the valley, especially if we're going back to defining the village nodes in which the general plan was originally, built around, and why, we're looking to hopefully get back to something like that where we have these village nodes to be able to apply this density from the people who want to do that. And my understanding of it is without TDRs, you're pretty much eliminating any potential for that. There's no other way to get density into these established village nodes.
I'm with you, I understand that, I just think it's overinflated in here. And personally, I was happy to see it come out, it's still referenced, just like bonus density, just like conservation
Yes.
uses, just like everything else. And it's a tool, and I say we use it, and I say we have an ordinance to support it, I just don't want it oversized out of,
Yeah.
piling density into an area of a neighborhood that
Yeah.
is out of balance.
And I think what's happened is with TDRs, it switched to have such a negative connotation to it because of the abuse of the way that they were being used.
It feels that. way
Yes,
sometimes.
exactly. That I think that the thought behind them is negative because we didn't have an applied way of monitoring them. It was just kind of free will, just, oh yeah, this one's here.
I say keep it in,
Yeah,
but it shouldn't have an oversized role. It should be like any other tool we use.
and 1.4 point, whatever that one is, the red line says, maintain a database that tracks all transferred, purchased or retired development rights. I mean, it's like a no-brainer. Why would we not have that within the city that just shows what's available, what's not, where and it's just this.
I wonder if the county had that.
Supposedly they did, but I tell you, getting it was crazy difficult, but we asked for it.
Okay, let me jump in. We're nowhere near gonna be done at 4 o'clock. Are we willing to go past 4 to talk about the other 5 things we need to talk about?
And I think we could wrap this up by saying the common agreement is TDRs is a tool. How it's taken out of here needs to be discussed more.
So the next thing I was gonna bring up is what do the 5 of us want to do to get to completion on the general plan, which is by law, the first thing we gotta have, so everything else would be done. So I'm gonna propose a process which would be, we provide our comments, written or however, to Brian. Brian edits the city council's version of said document on our SharePoint. And we put on the agenda, maybe at the next working session, another review of where we are on a working session. It doesn't have any time, I know, but we're gonna have to find time and talk about it and see if we can get to consensus on passing out the general plan as soon as we can, because it is, my understanding is the one we gotta make sure we get done, because everything else launches off. Does that sound like a good way to approach this?
So I've been adding comments, is this not like the one that I was sent, I've been adding comments in, is that,
You need to get them to him. He's gonna have the master copy of it. It's gonna be on the SharePoint.
okay.
Does something like that make sense? And we also make to getting our,
I'll send everybody a link to that master document this evening.
Absolutely.
and it becomes the master for us to review again between now and whatever work session we can get it on, either the next one or the one after, because we gotta get this.
Point of clarification, do we have that, do we have comments on that one?
Yes.
Then, okay.
No, I will send you clean, I'll send you one that's redlined with all the planning commission changes. And then, yeah, you just go nuts on it.
Okay.
I'm gonna get you.
So that you don't teach.
We're not angry. And we put pressure on ourselves.
Yeah.
We got
Sorry, I'm at.
No, it's okay. No, you don't need to. No, and you can get in and make those changes yourself. I mean, if you just want to send it to me, I can get in and make the changes.
Okay, but the one you send us, we can have it.
Yeah.
We can do this.
So that document is the city council master draft agenda.
Right.
And we are to edit it. And we're gonna get it on the next working session to discuss and see if we can get to vote. Make sense?
Yep.
Cool. Zoning then. Do we wanna pull up our GIS and look at it, or do we all have a sense of what we're talking about?
Well, I always like AV, audio visual, not zone.
So Brian, give us the summary of what the planning commission proposed and what the community said about it.
So the planning commission proposed removing the FB form-based zone and the G or gravel zone. And then proposed making changes to a portion of the community that had been zoned Forest Valley 3 and changing it to Agricultural Valley 3, kind of in the southeast of Huntsville neighborhood. Oh, yeah. Let's see, Kathy's got it, so that is the map of how the city is currently zoned or was zoned under Weber County. So the proposals would be, let's see, Kathy, you go way over to the top left-hand corner.
Or she can talk a little, we have the one with ours.
That's your summary, staff summary that you sent to us. Isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct. So the planning commission recommended removing gravel pits as a permitted use in all of the zones they reviewed. They've also removed the zone itself. There are currently only 2 parcels within the city boundaries zoned for gravel. One of them is in operation. It's the oh no, I forgot the name. It starts with an S. It's about
Middling.
Stoker Lane.
Stoker, yeah, thank you, Stoker. It's the little industrial area on Stoker.
It's not
They don't
used-
really
it's
do
not used.
extraction. It's
Yeah.
mostly they've just been storing
Yep,
materials.
storage.
They've got they made a building permit application last year to the county to put up a new warehouse, an accessory building. But that had been under the county zone for gravel extraction. The intent of the planning commission would be to downzone it to Agriculture Valley. Whatever.
That operation could continue as a non-conforming. use.
Exactly, the current operations can continue as a non-conforming use. The other one is, as you can see, that little kind of pink dot in the top left
Up there in Liverpool.
corner there, yeah, that's on the road to the church camps up there.
Yeah.
It's not a unique parcel. It is a little blob of
Purple.
purple that had been designated in the middle of an existing parcel that is zoned agriculture valley.
Yeah.
There is no active extraction, there doesn't appear to be any historic extraction or active extraction on the site at the moment, so.
Can I review the comments?
Mhm.
No one really objected.
No,
No.
no, nobody really, no, we didn't receive any objections even from the folks at Stoker about rezoning either of these
If he has
gravel properties.
commercial type properties there, why not make it commercial?
That would be fitting to the existing land use, yeah.
Now, would that be, may I ask, clarifying, would that be CV1 or CV2?
Mm, actually, it might fit better under NV1.
What?
Manufacturing Valley 1, which is more intensive commercial and light industrial uses.
Oh,
Sounds good.
So it might fit under that better.
are you talking?
You may, yeah,
Yes, totally.
yeah. You know, you could make that adjustment yourselves, or you could follow the planning commission's recommendation, move it to 83, and then just wait and decide if the property owner wants to make any use changes on the property. And in that case, they could apply for a rezone and bring that to your consideration. Then you can debate it.
He spoke last week. I think he was there.
He did. He spoke more about concerns. I'm trying to remember. What is it?
Well, there's a property owner in Stoker who spoke. Was he the gravel pit? I don't know that he was.
No, actually, I don't know that he wants to.
So what problem was the planning commission trying to solve with the gravel
The
pits?
planning commission feels like gravel pit extraction doesn't fit the character of the community. They don't want to see it as an encouraged use within the city limits. They felt that it's unsightly, and the trucks and traffic that it generates are unwanted. Whether or not it addresses a need of the community
Yeah.
Was not discussed at all?
It was not given a weighty conversation, no.
There was none of the property owners said it is needed and this is what I'm doing.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, what's the next big change?
The next big change would be the form-based code change proposals from Nordic Village and the properties near Eden Crossing. Eden Crossing itself, and then there's another property to the east and smaller property to the west. This one, okay, it looks like is this the new? That's not the new zone. This is the new zone.
Currently,
If you thought you were gonna be working, no. Don't do the working.
No. I want the current one.
They need to go to,
Yeah,
need to go.
Oh, yeah, oh, that's
Go
right.
south.
Go down.
Go south.
Go south.
You're right.
There you go.
You're
That's the
right.
old map.
There we go.
That's not correct, by the way. It's not current.
those two parcels right there.
Yeah, those
If
are,
we need to, we can go to GeoGizmo. Is
You
it
just jump from.
correct as far as we know?
I don't know if the county ever updated
I
it.
don't think they did. Oh, but
Okay, well,
for discussions purposes, the planning commission recommended all of form base be rezoned to.
to be rezoned to the zoning designation that the parcels held prior to their rezone as form-based code, to the best that we could determine. The Nordic Village property, the rezone ordinance that the county passed did not specify which zones were going to which, and it actually had 3 different zones. It had some CBR1, some FV3, and some open space.
So in the case of Nordic Valley, it was recommended to become
So just, they recommended it to be all Forest Valley 3.
FE3.
Yep.
Okay.
And then in the case of Eden Crossing and I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the name of the property to the west, east of
Dog and Bone,
Ogden Valley.
Dog and Bone.
Dog and Bone. Oh, okay. Dog and Bone. Those 2 were rezoned to Agriculture Valley 3. And then the last form-based code is kind of in the old Eden Village area. There's a handful of small parcels that were zoned form-based that have already been or mostly developed into commercial properties. And so they recommended rezoning them to commercial two.
What problem was the planning commission seeking to solve by this reason?
They have unfavorable opinions of the form-based code standards and don't want to see them applied or promulgated throughout the community in new projects. And so it was recommended to remove the zone completely from the list of allowable zoning districts.
Can you give us a sense of what the undesirable characteristics were?
No, not really. There's a lot of history there that hasn't been shared with me, and so just an unfavorable view of the density and intensity of use with the mixed use commercial residential.
I recognize you in a second, Kate. Is form-based as it exists today a receiving zone of TDRs?
My understanding is yes.
Okay. Question.
Okay. I'm asking some questions, about. Can you on-ring develop? These were zoned, form-based.
Mhm.
Extensive plans were made. Development agreements were created, which, as we have discussed, create vested rights. In that case, is there a need to change a zone when that zone is already vested with the subject property? It's kind of like a hypothetical. It's kind of like changing a constitutional law,
Yeah.
a property right, and saying, oh, let's go back to your original pre-property right status. But you still have a vested property right. So to me, it's kind of like, why bother to do that?
The establishment of master development agreements for these properties, and I believe all of them have master development agreements on them, that essentially makes any change of the underlying zoning moot.
Exactly.
Removing the form-based code as a zone does not nullify those master development agreements or change any development that those property owners are entitled to at this point. It does, as has been mentioned by property owners, it creates complications with financing and other administrative activities on their end. But it doesn't really change anything in terms of what product the community is anticipated to receive. Now, if these projects were to fail in some way, or at least not be
executed,
implemented, and they changed ownership, and there was some but even master development agreements can change ownership. Ownership, it travels with the land, it doesn't necessarily change. But if somebody came back with a different development proposal for the city to consider, the change in zoning could have an impact. But
With removing the form-based, because what I see here is, you said it's just these 4 parcels, is that what I'm seeing on here?
yeah, mostly, yeah. So we've got
It's more than 4 parcels.
There's more than 4 parts, but there's like 4 little blobs on the map.
These are the
4 areas
ones
on
here
the map.
that you've highlighted, so there's
Yes.
more that would change from form-based.
Well, we would just have, so the Nordic Village is one area. The Eden Crossing is one area, the Dog and Bone is one area, and then the kind of the downtown Eden. Old Eden is a fourth.
Old Eden.
Yeah, Old Eden, thank you.
So removing the form-based would affect more than these?
No.
No, so it will just affect.
I guess it could potentially affect future properties if somebody wanted to rezone property that was currently zoned something else. If they wanted to change the zone to form-based. And if you did not have that zone, then that option is no longer there for them to ask for. However, if they did seek a rezone, that's a legislative question for the city council to consider, and you can just deny the request for a reason.
Yeah, well, so that kind of led to my question, would leaving these in place open the door for other form-based?
Only so much as you as a commission, a city council is willing to accept. Yeah.
Peggy?
The question was asked, why change? Let's flip it and ask the other one, why not change? What are the ups and downs, pros and cons of changing? So let me, I think I turned that all around.
No,
They asked why change, why not?
If it's not broken, don't.
Right. So I'm saying, why not break it? Why not, let's look at that option also. So we can weigh it all at the same time, so.
well, one of the challenges is you're now creating a bunch of non-conforming uses that have no justification in your code anywhere, and that and frankly, the general plan talks a little bit about villages, but doesn't provide a lot of specific guidance on how to approach these higher density nodes within the community. And so removing the one tool that you have had to manage those density areas it leaves you with a vacuum, you know, and obviously the intent has always been to come up with some sort of replacement, but there's no real fixed timeline on when that's going to happen. And so it creates some administrative challenges for the city. They're not extremely difficult, but it does create challenges where we are administering a master development agreement for a land use that is no longer allowed within the community. From the property owner's perspective, it's a downzoning. It can contribute significantly to a loss of value for the property, and if they are using that value of property to leverage financing for the development of the project, it could jeopardize the lending institution's decision to continue with the project. I don't know. I'm not experienced in how much weight financial institutions give master development agreements, so I don't feel confident to, you know, give you a lot of advice one way or the other there. But it could be, you know, it could be that the master development agreement still provides that leverage on behalf of the property owner. But
Yeah, these were like the reasons of why not.
Sure.
Tell me, what would be the pros and cons to doing it?
well, those are the cons to doing it.
So
Yeah.
those are the cons,
Yeah.
what would be the pros to doing it, besides the one I heard about the adjoining property owners, because in this form base. There, or will that change? Will a property that's next to form base still be allowed to ask for a rezone into the form base? Or will we not, if we didn't have that?
No, if you don't have the form-based code zone, then the option to ask is not guaranteed. However, even as I recall reading in the original code, even asking just because they can ask does not mean the city is required to approve.
Right,
It's still a legislative decision on your part as a city council to decide whether or not you want to accept that rezone request.
so going forward, if there's no form based zone, then there is no request because there is no zone,
Correct.
okay?
But would you get another request for a different?
They could come in and request CDR1 or
So we don't-
I mean, or until, you know, if the city develops a new village, high intensity residential zone, which it would need to do, I think, regardless of whether you keep form base or not. You know, they could always, you know, request working with, or they could just come in, with the existing zone and say, you know, we want to do a master development agreement, and I know the zone says X, but we want to do Y, and as long as you sign the contract with them, that's what they get. You can negotiate the terms of that contract.
So
determine
help me
what the-
understand that more. So if a master development agreement is in place, the zone reverted back to FV3 or AV1, and they come in and there might be a change to these or an addendum or an update.
No, I'm speaking to a new property.
Oh, a new
For the
one.
existing master development agreements, those are fixed.
Right.
I mean, if you want to renegotiate between two parties, that's entirely within your powers. But those master development agreements are fixed regardless of what the zoning is. If a new property owner wanted to come in with an adjacent parcel or one 5 blocks down the street and say, I want to enact a master development agreement for my property that allows for, you know,
Yeah.
townhomes or,
Mhm.
you know, some other use that would not be allowed under the existing zoning, you are free to negotiate that with them.
I guess my next question was then, if I may ask one more.
You got it.
Because I'm trying to understand all this. With the master development agreement, if it was FV3 or AV1, and there was a change that was requested to that agreement, AV3, excuse me. And there is a change to that agreement. Then would that make a difference, FAB zone, form-based village zone, or the other zone that it reverted back to? If we revert, I'm just trying to see if there would be.
No, because the master development agreement doesn't apply to the whole zone, it only applies to the property.
Let me ask the question slightly differently.
Okay,
We rezone, it's now AB3,
yes.
but the master development agreement is there. The developer comes to us and says, I want to change the master development agreement. It changes. Does that change the zoning?
No,
Does the AB3 apply therefore to the changed master development agreement? Because that is the zone in place when the master development agreement is changed.
no. The master development agreement supersedes zoning in all cases.
Right,
So it would stay form-based.
It will stay
What?
according to the conditions of the master development agreement, which right now, in at least, yeah, they refer heavily to the standards within the current form-based code.
And if the party to the master development comes in and says, I would like to change. You negotiate a change to that agreement. And with zoning, that may or may not have been overlaid. Has no effect. You're negotiating over a vested property rights.
When that negotiation.
That's correct.
You're
You could change the property rights by negotiation, but it takes two to agree.
It takes two to agree, and you as a council must agree to that amendment to the master development agreement.
What other zones allow or receiving zones for TDRs?
I believe the RE 15 and 20 zones.
So you say you believe, audience, is he right or is
Yes.
does anybody know any different? Hey, Corbin, our attorney's not online.
I
Is CDR?
I don't think the code specifies what zones are receiving areas. I think those are determined on a project by project basis.
Well,
I am not aware of language in the code for the zoning districts that says this is a receiving area. And this, I mean, in a couple of cases,
Well, villages will.
Well, CB2s are definitely part of the TDRs that they'd be built into that too. And CB2s, that's the original idea behind form-based.
Let me, I'm gonna ask him one more question back to you guys. Brian, I think I heard you say that there are every single parcel that's in form base right now is party to a master development agreement. Is that the case or not?
yes.
Okay. The reason I'm asking that, if true, changing the zoning is not gonna change the use of the property.
It's not going to change the
Right.
outcome of the development.
Right, so therefore,
What,
dropping the form-based would not affect that.
The intent of the planning commission to remove form-based code was to prevent new form-based projects coming into the city. They wanted to remove it from the.
it is no longer an
It
option
was
for us to
not a,
consider.
it was not a color to paint with in a paint by numbers book.
Right, but it doesn't affect.
But it does not affect any of the existing projects that are located within the existing form-based code.
So
So-
it's conceivably. We could say no form-based zone exists in the future.
Exactly.
People just take the term and have a better experience with it. To say,
Yeah.
it's not there.
Exactly. One of my recommendations was that you leave the form-based code as is. And just simply as a body legislatively decide not to accept any new applications to rezone to a form-based code. Now, that is a temporary solution. In so much as this body, at least a majority of them, agree to enforce that. You know, if your membership changes or your minds change, that decision can change. Now, however, as a temporary solution, that gives the city time to work through the new general plan process and create a new village high-intensity mixed-use development code that you feel better about, that you feel more accurately reflects the goals of the community.
Okay, but couldn't we do that anyway? Because it's not going to affect these properties and still say, we're not, there will be no more form-based zoning
In the future.
in the future.
It
And
works.
still work on, and still be able to work on high density village nodes. Separate from that.
Yeah.
And then I'd like to know, explain to me, Dawn is asking about, do these have TDRs? I wanna know why you're asking that, Dawn. Like,
well, because there's gotta be a place for TDRs to go. If the vision of the general plan is a mechanism for landowners to get value for their property with something called a TDR, that means they need to be able to sell them to somewhere and then used somewhere. So historically, they've been used, in my understanding, in the form-based zone and maybe elsewhere. But if we allow TDRs, they've got to be able to be bought and sold, and the bought part is form-based. And maybe elsewhere. That's why I'm asking those questions.
And
Does that make sense? It's not
Yeah.
making sense to you.
no, it makes sense, I'm just.
So if not there, where?
yeah, and Brian,
Well, there's other village areas that are.
But they're not form-based.
Plan, but not.
but it's.
That's why I asked the question, but
But-
apparently we get to make those decisions on whether TDRs.
Yes.
Right, we can make that future as a legislative decision on a land use.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Which is a needed thing.
I think so.
It's an absolute, we have to
Let
do that.
let me get us going here in a second. Kay, you got the last question on form base.
Okay, I just wanna see if I have this right. We could, are you recommending that we eliminate it altogether, current and future? Or would you suggest status quo for vested rights, because what we do will have no effect on those properties, other than,
Well, it has no effect on the planned development for them. It may affect the level of risk that the property owners are now assuming in order to develop that. It may increase that risk.
you said that could be a safety.
But
No. Devaluing property in and of itself is not a taking, as long as, although I'm not the lawyer.
Becomes a legal.
there is ambiguity in how courts have weighed in on that. Some say you have to take all economic value. Some say you have to take a substantial amount of economic value. It can vary case by case. It is not, you are not, the city is not without risk of legal action against the city in the case of
If we were to change,
changing this zone.
impose that zone.
I am not qualified to render a
And that's the question. We would put
a likelihood of success one way or another, but
Did you have another recommendation though?
So,
Agreed.
yeah, the other recommendation that I had would be, so the first recommendation would be just to leave the form-based code as is, and then opt as a legislative body to not allow any new form-based code requests as a zoning request. The second would be to remove the form-based code, but instead apply the master plan development overlay zone to the properties formerly zoned as master plan or form-based, because as a formal and documented acknowledgement that these projects have master development plans in place with vested rights to a certain degree of development, intensity of development.
What does that give to them or add to the situation? Doesn't the development agreement do that already?
The development agreement does, this just reinforces it by putting it on the map. It may not do anything in but
Okay, can I jump in? We're at 4:12.
Yes.
And we're all gonna be here for a while, but I wanna
big ones.
yeah, so if we wanna keep talking about these two big ones, let's do. I just wanna remind us that we still have, in theory, 4 more to talk about.
I'll just do a quick summary, go by Bill on my side on that. I think that it's and I'm looking more future with it. I think the idea behind form-based, the idea behind it, and if you read up on it, I would encourage the council to read up on what the whole idea behind form-based is. It's a good idea. It's not a bad thing. Do we need to cater it more to a rural type Ogden Valley area? Absolutely. I mean, the overall of what form-based asks for is more of an urban seaside area that's it's already built up more than what Ogden Valley is. In the future, could we modify or evolve more into what the definition of urban form-based is? Absolutely. But I think what it shows us, the 5 of us, is that we got to put our brains together and kind of figure out how we want to plan this going forward, obviously with the help of the Ogden Valley residents and what they want to, but based off of what the general plan originally said, and what we're adopting and taking in, we really need to put this together. Like, we really need to have a well thought out idea behind it, utilizing what's already there. It's there, it's done, I think, and that's where we have to make this decision on the current issue that we just discussed. But then taking that and build, and it's cool. That part to me is like exciting, like what we can do with this, because we have such cool areas within Ogden Valley to designate those areas and make it great for these people who want to come in and do neat things within our valley. But it has to be, there's got to be some uniformity to it and some conformity to it. We've got to work together with it, is my kind of summary with it. Like, I think it's a good thing. I think it's neat that we're hashing through this and realizing that there's areas that maybe didn't work great prior, but the idea behind it, it's a good idea. It's just that we need to bring it together to make it. We were close. That's what sometimes I just kick ourselves that we didn't nail it, prior to, because the 5 of us wouldn't be here right now. We'd be, still. But I think we were really close to it, and I think we can get back to that to get the valley in a place that that everyone can be happy with, 100%, you know? That's
I
kind of,
think we need to balance it with the neighborhoods around
absolutely,
it.
that part of it, that's exactly what I'm saying, but, yeah,
Is it is, the village area was a good concept.
absolutely, yep,
It's just, we have different ideas about
Right.
size and scope of
yep.
it. So to keep it to fit our valley, to keep it boutique-ish and.
Yep.
And,
So
you know,
I think this is the type of thing that lends itself probably to the follow-on work we'll be able to do with the railroad. So.
Yeah.
Let's go, what's the next one?
The last one was the proposed rezone of a number of properties in the southeast corner of the community, near the monastery, or actually kind of in between Huntsville and the monastery, to rezone them from FV3 to AV3. The intent behind that was simply a couple of the planning commissioners had preferences that felt like the AV3 zone matched the existing land uses better than FV3.
This happens to all be in my district. Did,
I have received one comment in favor of the change and two comments in opposition to the change.
Does that include, the monastery?
The monastery was.
No white female in favor. Who were the negatives were?
The Bennett's and,
Two you sent today.
yeah, they were the two that came in over the weekend.
Yeah.
Bennett family, and then the other one started with an A, I think, Adams.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
no, that's.
No, the changes are all in
Okay.
D5 south and 5 south.
They were specific.
Yeah. So what were the two negatives? Summary.
They felt like they purchased their property with an expectation of certain uses and that this is changing those uses.
Did they specify the uses?
No.
One of them did ask though for verification or definition of what actually was gonna be the change between going from FE3 to AV3. They asked.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Which
And
my
that,
guess is they probably,
that changes in the summary document that I provided.
One talk
The-
about abutting a highway.
They felt like their property was on the highway and that, although they're not on Highway 39.
can you give us the obvious differences? Just in.
The obvious difference is that FV3 allows bed and breakfast uses and AV3 does not. That's the main difference. Both zones, the planning commission has recommended the planning commission has recommended taking several of the agricultural uses, particularly for family food production, and adding them into the FV3 zone. So they're actually creating more uses for ag, or more specified uses for ag in the FV3 zone, but they are taking away the ability to do a bed and breakfast. Now, there were concerns also, and I wonder if they're conflating bed and breakfast with short-term rentals. One of the property owners was very concerned that they were losing the ability to rent a room out. They had a spare room that they weren't using. This was an opportunity for them to provide some affordable housing to an individual, as well as supplement their income. That right would be going away. That STR right would be removed from all zones, although under the current planning commission's recommendations.
But then if it's a 30-day rental and someone's living there for affordable housing, it ain't an STR.
It's not an STR, yeah.
Yeah.
The
That's a good
other one
point.
person I talked to said that some of the subdivisions though within this zone that would go AV3 still have their subdivision rules. Whatever.
Some of them are, there are many HOAs.
Yeah, so they have HOAs and they have rules that will, you know.
Homeowners associations cannot legally prevent or
Our zoning
they
ordinance
cannot, yes, the zoning ordinance has precedence over the HOA. However, if the subdivision itself in its plat notes has in a note that says nightly rentals are allowed, there are some that the county did 20 years ago that say nightly rentals are, and that is on the subdivision as a recorded note. That takes priority over the city zoning, similar to a master development.
Right.
So,
So
and those are gonna be a lot of fun to find because they aren't, there's no list of those anywhere, so.
So these seem to be somewhat cosmetic changes. And I listened to. You said a couple of the commissioners had a view that. The use of the land was more consistent with AB3 than FB3.
Correct.
Say that again, sorry.
But both have a relatively high amount of residential use.
Yeah, that a couple of the commissioners had a view that AB3 was more consistent with what the use of the land was.
Which was kind of said by the monastery.
Yeah, that's their position on it too.
Yeah.
They're operating it as an agricultural operation.
They always have, even though it's been FV for years.
But
it's a mix.
but they can do agriculture.
It's a mix of different FVs. It's FV 3, 5, and 4.
Right.
It's correct. The FB3 allows almost all of the same activities with the exception of higher intensity livestock, like dairies or
I think one of the comments.
on-site animal processing for commercial use, things like that.
Doesn't allow dairies in FV.
FB, no.
Waynescourt for years had a dairy right there in FV 3.
So is
Well,
this,
I reserve the right to be.
Well, I don't know that I'm right. I'm just telling you, they
Yeah.
ran a dairy for years and
Well,
years.
and it may be that their use precedes its change.
If they change, yeah.
so was there a problem with FB3 that would make us want to actively change it? Or as Don Hickman would say, what is the problem we're trying to solve with this? Versus making it better, is there a problem we're trying to solve?
No, this one is very much a cosmetic preferential interpretation of what the zone should be rather than than trying to address a specific problem.
But I heard that bed and breakfasts are not allowed in one of them. Is that the FB3?
Correct.
AB 3.
No.
You know, I have a bed and breakfast in AB 3.
Okay.
The properties that are changing zones to AB3 would lose the permitted use of a bed and breakfast.
Bed and breakfast. Okay.
And for selling it,
So that's what it would pretty much take away, is the ability to have it. Bed and breakfast.
Bed and breakfast goes away, may or may not be able to have dairy. Largely the agricultural or married, I'm not sure that they're completely married. And I think that they should be, which is a following conversation of the land use codes. Nobody came to me as the councilman representing these people and said, not only no, but hell no, though I hadn't read the minutes. And I haven't looked at the two land use codes that they reference. Bill White did say to me, he thinks it's a good idea because it conforms with how he's used it, but it doesn't change. He can farm just like he's always farmed under FV3 versus AB3. So
was there something with an educational center?
that shows up in FV3, not in AB3.
Okay, so I've been working with a couple of property owners about a request for a educational center. It's essentially an agritourism, the donkey farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and that would be treated as an agritourism activity under the AB zone.
Are you allowed to do it under FV? So while he's pondering that,
Yeah,
we've now gone through all the proposed zoning map change.
I'm working on it, but I don't have everything memorized yet, so.
There's one who commented, Brian, that the FB3 zoning as outlined in 14-14-2 and 14-14-3 gives them permitted uses that they wouldn't have under AB3
That's the Bennett's, the one that, I don't know what those references are.
14.2,
Yep.
and 3.
Whatever they.
the 14, well. Yeah, I'm on the wrong page, so that's fine.
Outstanding volunteers, are you not holding in there? You need it. Thank you.
So. Yeah, actually, FB3 does allow agritourism as well. I mean, I could put up a comparative table, but really
So we don't know that. They didn't specify what they lost.
they did not
just make
specify
a
what they
reference.
lost, they just listed the table of accepted uses or of property uses and accessory uses, and
As the council person who represents these changes. I'm not convinced there's a problem we're trying to solve. I think I understand the intent of the planning commission and. It conceptually makes sense. I think it was Tyson who suggested this. He goes, it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's agriculture, they get agriculture. But I'm not convinced of the need to change when they're losing something, bed and breakfast, and they're not really gaining anything. Because as long as the agricultural rights are the same under FE3 as AB3, why change now? So I would prefer being conservative on that, but I'm not gonna follow sort of this. Nobody's come to me and said, holy cow, it's the best thing since sliced bread. It's just, it's a change and I'm reticent to change just for change's sake at first. I'd rather keep the same, and then if the people come to us and say, we really have to change, then let's change. That's where I sit with it.
Say, it's worth tidying up and. Yeah. I don't think it's a need to tidy up, unless there's a problem.
Yeah, I haven't been presented with a problem to fix other than defending, so that's where I sit with this one.
And the nice thing with that is we're planning on doing a full revision of this, look at this sheet down the road very shortly. So if it is an issue.
Well, we could always go back and change the zoning map at any time.
It won't be part of the general plan.
Well, it could be, I mean,
If we have more people come to us and say we really want this to be 83, I think we could revisit it pretty
Oh,
easily.
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I kind of agree with your assessment, and it's in your area, so.
Yeah, we don't complain.
One other comment on that, you know, I was in the office this morning in Box Farm. And I don't think we've fully heard what the farmers want. This is prime farmland. So I'd rather not mess with it until we get clear guidance from what their needs are. And we may end up revising both based on what we hear from them.
it is 4:30. Our volunteers have been here, the audience has been here for 2.5, we've been here for 2.5. What we have not discussed are the proposed land use ordinances. We've established that even if we were to pass them tomorrow, they would, Blaine couldn't use them. So an option for us is we defer the conversation to another working session. Or we power on and talk through the, how many of them are there? Four?
Which.
What do you guys think? We've got AB3, FE3, FR3 or whatever we're calling it, and R8 and 15.
And some definitions.
And some definitions. What do you guys want to do?
I from a staff perspective, putting it off a week doesn't change anything. I would not recommend moving any zones or properties out of the moratorium until all of these pieces are in place. So while it would, it's a demonstrable step of progress to say, hey, we adopted these zones. But from a practical standpoint, it doesn't change anything on the ground for the property owners. And so, taking an extra week to deliberate over them and see how everything fits in. I'll give you even more to talk about, that week too. But it doesn't change our timeline in the big picture.
The flip side is, at some point, we've got to deal with this, and the 13th already is jam-packed. We may have to put upon ourselves a couple more working sessions just to work through these things.
Yeah.
Let me go back to the zoning map. How do we want to approach changes to it? Should we do it the same way we did the general plan? Brian put it on the SharePoint, we made comment to it. Have we reached a consensus of what we think we might do with it? I don't know that we did.
I don't know if we've reached a consensus, but I have a better idea.
Okay, so I would propose,
She has a better idea.
I would propose, Brian, you put it there and maybe create a document maybe in which we put our thoughts. And so we can talk amongst each other via a document on what we're thinking. I think there's some stuff to think about. You guys agree?
Great.
Okay, so
What was your idea?
No, I have a better idea of what's going on. Oh.
you're more informed on what's going on.
Okay, that's
Okay, go ahead, and then I'm gonna talk to Annie's with Lisa's.
I like the idea of getting the documents on the shared drive where we can all do that. Can you do that with the language, the ordinance, the codes?
Yes.
Or the codes as well?
Yes.
Cause then we can.
Yeah, I will just take the red line copy. I can put the summaries in if you want to read them. But I will just put the red line copy of the full ordinance in so that you can see all of the proposed changes. And then, yeah, just comment, add and delete, whatever you like, so.
Great.
Let me bring up just logistics while we're all, the five of us here. Our lives are about to become why we all ran, right? As Chad, you pointed out, this is the moment, but we've got an enormous amount of work we're gonna have to do. So not only are all these land use codes coming in, we're gonna change over how we do permitting and building permits, all kinds of stuff, so it's gonna be real busy. Kay, what is your understanding of what the 13th looks like right now?
The 13th is first a public hearing.
On the impact
fees. And that could be long, it could be short, depends on who shows up. And then immediately thereafter, we'll consider enacting fees.
The planning commission is also gonna be here from 11 to 1:30 before your impact fees.
Okay.
Right.
So, and also we cannot, that special meeting, which could include a vote on the impact fees, could also go short or long. Most likely short depending on the comments. And then there could be some time after that if we want to put another.
And the reason I bring this up is right now that has superseded all the routine, normal stuff we do at work sessions, to include all we do with Brian. And so I think we should seriously think about if the room's available and if our volunteers will bless us with their time.
Well, we're already scheduled here from, it's like 1 to 5.
Right, so
So if the meeting goes short, we're already scheduled.
And Candy's from 11.
And Kathy's gonna come in at 11.
you two are worth your weight in platinum every single day. So I would suggest to us that we plan on a work session following this special session to further address what we just talked about. And by then, Brian will have, here's what the planning commission
Sure.
has done, so we can begin getting that in the hopper. Otherwise, we're never gonna get through this stuff,
Yeah.
in my opinion. We've gotta do the right thing by the people, but we gotta do it right. Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Nobody likes being in 4 hours of meetings, but that's our life for a while.
Well, and we may also have to consider some morning work sessions during the week. Or a Saturday work session, if it's done.
But right now,
Right
we're
now,
targeting,
Tag down.
so public hearing, yes or no vote on the impact fees, followed by a work session.
Good.
One topic of which is revisiting general plan, zoning map, and talking about our 4 land use ordinances,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
What you guys right now are also gonna see is Matt Crump's gonna show you the road maintenance plan. He's scheduled to have it ready this week for me to look at, and then us all to look at, because I want us all to redline it or what, and vote on, here's where we're gonna spend. I don't know, it's about $1.4 million.
The 13th is on Monday.
Uh-huh.
We have to be out of this room by about 30.
Oh, well, then we're gonna have to talk less and think more. So there's a whole bunch on the agenda.
Yeah.
Sound good for everybody?
Yep.
I know I didn't offer up to all you guys to talk. Thank you for participating. Brian, thank you for your staff time. We appreciate it.
You really helped.
Oh, thank you.
Sharon and Kathy, you two remain the volunteers extraordinaire. Does anybody else have anything before I suggest we vote or move to adjourn?
Just be cautious of all the extra meetings with staff and, you know, it's
Oh,
our
that's
manager.
hard.
Yeah, it's great, but we're thin right now. So,
Thus, and we've got to do this right, because we owe it to them to have the land use codes in a form that help them. Theo, did you have something? You were gonna, or were you gonna move?
No, I don't have anything more.
I will entertain a movement to adjourn if somebody will so move. I can't, well, I can, but
I move to adjourn meeting.
I'll second it.
we have a move to adjourn by Councilmember Shaw, a second by Councilmember Booth, all in favor? Aye. Any nays? Silent, we are hereby adjourned.